Welcome to Forbes Talks. Joining me now is Kristen Stoller, Deputy Editor, and Steve Bertoni, Assistant Managing Editor of Forbes. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course. Thanks for having us.
This is great.
Of course. So you both edited the 2023 30 Under 30 Forbes list. So first, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Appreciate
yes.
it.
Massive undertaking, I'm sure. So tell us, what does it take to get onto the list?
Whew, there is a lot of different things. We evaluate so many different components. So I think we're looking at, are people innovative? Do they have new and exciting ideas that haven't been done before? Obviously, we're Forbes, so we look at the business angle. We look at their funding, their investors, their revenue to see if it's a healthy company, what the future of the company is going to look like. Steve, you have any other things you think are important?
You've covered those are the big things, like innovators, new ideas. We want, founders over employees. And it doesn't mean we don't have, people that work at giant companies doing big roles, but, Ty always goes to this person that's an entrepreneur. We also want scale. Like, it's important if I created a new, kind of soda, like, is it on every shelf in Whole Foods or Costco or like Target? You want to show like how big it is and how big it can be. And what's also interesting, why don't you talk about the process of because we always say it's like harder to get on the under 30 list than any top college in the country and that sort of stuff.
It's crazy. So we have I think this year we had over 12,000 nominations, which is, it's up there. It's some of our top nominations. Yeah.
People really want to get on this list.
They really do. So from there, we have reporters look at every single nomination. So we're looking at everything. From there, we do our own research too. We ask our sources, we ask analysts, we have say, who do you think should be on this list? We narrow it down to about our top maybe 200. And then from there, we send a smaller chunk to our judges. This year, we had some amazing judges. We had Joe Jonas, we had Remy Wolf, we had Bobby Brown. So we have actual experts in the fields evaluating these people.
And so how do you pick these judges?
So we do a wide ask. We ask people who've done it before, so they know what they're doing, but we also try and get some new and exciting people. But we're looking for the top experts in their field. So if it's music, clearly someone like Joe Jonas knows what it takes to be in the music business. Bobby Brown, who's done retail, clearly a leader in retail. And we also have some Forbes judges. So our Chief Content Officer, Randall Lane, he judges the social impact list and the food and drink list. So we get a good mix of people there.
Yeah, but exactly said, like Kristen said, experts. Like we've had everyone from Steve Ballmer in tech to David Chang in food. And then we also always want to have at least one under 30 alumni as a judge as well, because they are on the ground. They are probably pretty close to the age.
Sure.
So it's great to have these amazing mentors, but they might be in their 50s and 60s, and they see like the big picture. But then the under 30 judges, under 30 alumni judges, are kind of more like grassroots and see like what's really happening. So we like to have those two things.
It sounds like a very involved process, and like you were saying, there's industry experts in each category. Can you break down the categories for us?
Who do you want us to list all 20?
You don't need to list all of them.
Okay.
Just like
no. There's it's 30 under 30, but there's 20 categories with 30 entries or people for each one. So that's everything from consumer tech to food and drink to social impact. All right, give me three.
Social media, finance, and
Hollywood.
Hollywood. There you go. That's easy.
So that's some. But yes, we try to represent basically everything out there into 20 categories, and they do shift. So like
social media is a pretty new category too. That I think only came about in the last couple of years because previously we had this creator phenomenon is so new. So we had these people, but on different lists like Hollywood or Food and Drink or wherever. But now we actually have a dedicated social media list, which Benito Skinner is our lead of this year, Benny Drama.
Benny Drama, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love following Benny Drama. But you're talking about how the list has evolved. It launched over a decade ago. So how has it evolved since then?
Oh my gosh, it's incredible. Yeah. This is our 12th list. I've actually done them all.
Wow.
I'm sorry, I've been a part of them all and seen it evolve. And I think the biggest thing how it changed is how, the impact of this list. Like we knew it would be a good list, but it became something like this feather in people's caps when they got it. So it's just grown, and as social media has grown, it's become this kind of digital, almost digital trophy. So, we have some stats that I think, over 90% of listers, when the day of they make the list, they've updated their LinkedIn profiles, like they're under 30 listers. You see folks who, they're on social media, they're, talking about it and sharing it. People put it on their email signatures. So it's become that. And I think in general, but the list itself, it's grown. So we used to have 15 categories. We now have 20. We've expanded across the globe. So Forbes has, 50 plus licensees. Most of them have their own kind of regional lists, whether it's, under 30, Spain, or under 30 Middle East, that sort of thing. And then, we have a Europe list now for all of Europe, and we do an Asia list. And it's also gotten, luckily, I think, a lot more diverse across the board from the first list. And, that's never done, but we're proud of how that's going.
You just mentioned that it's like a feather in your cap when you're named on the Forbes 30 under 30 list. So can you both speak to what being named on the list does for a person's personal brand?
Yeah, we met with a lot of under 30s this year at our Detroit Summit, and I think the biggest thing they told us is they get a foot in the door. So whereas before they could never get any meetings with investors and people wouldn't take them seriously, now investors are more willing to give them a chance and say, hey, all right, we'll have a meeting with you because Forbes is deeming you a little bit more legit.
Yeah.
So I think it's really helped people with that, and it's also helped our under 30 listers connect with their fellow listers. So they're collaborating together, they're working together, they're doing things that they might not have had an opportunity to with other brands who also were awarded the lister designation.
Yeah, I think it really also depends on, and its impact depends on what kind of category they're in. So we've heard of, if you're in a startup, you're getting more funding. We've had, my favorite thing is when you have charities or social impact, they get tons of grants they never would have gotten. Like these are people trying to do good, and they're trying to attract the world's attention. To play a small part in that really helps. So we love that. People in finance, we've heard they always get headhunters calling them. They try to get poached. So some big banks don't like their people being on it because then they're getting calls from rivals to get them on these things. So that is funny.
We have under 30 relationships, we have under 30 marriages, we have under 30 babies. So it also helps in your personal life sometimes.
Yes, I know people also add it to their dating profiles as well.
Exactly.
But yes, there are under 30 babies.
I love that. It sounds like there's a real sense of community. And can you speak to that? Because it started in the U.S. and then it's gone abroad. The Forbes 30 under 30 is international. Tell us about it.
So we do every year, we do Europe and Asia, as Steve said. So those are two lists. Because I think, with the North America list, you're just looking at US and Canada. And there's so much talent elsewhere. So we are actually kicking off our search for Europe nominations this week, hoping to launch that in the spring. And we look at people from all across Europe. So last year, we had some of the journalists who were reporting in Ukraine on our list and highlighted them and the work we do there. We've also had people like Manskein, who are musicians abroad, who are really exciting. So we want to spotlight a diverse amount of people.
Yeah, and it's always about community behind this. Like the reason why we started under 30, it's not just, of course, yes, we want to celebrate these folks and let the world know here's some new people, new ideas. But the thought was, most of these people they're founders, they're entrepreneurs, they're starting stuff. And when you're and their peer group was like, these folks, like their friends are worried about getting raises and getting promoted or with their jobs. If you're under 30, you're worried about hiring. You're the one firing. You're going through fundraising. You're going through stress. You're going out. So if you're an entrepreneur, you're kind of like social group. Very few people are going through that with you. So the important thing is let's get this group together that has these shared experiences, and they're having problems that people usually don't face. They're having wins and losses that people don't usually face till they're in their 40s and 50s. So let's get them together. And we also love the community because they're all builders, but in different things. So you might have, and we see it at the summit, you might have someone who's super technical genius and they're amazing at coding, and they've started a company, and they meet someone who's amazing at marketing or fashion or design, and it's just like the best yin and yang, and they really talk and they hit it off, and they get such inspiration, and they can solve each other's problems because they're so good at so many different things, and we put them together, whether it's formal or just hey, let's get a drink and talk about your branding, or how do you fix this database? It's these kind of opposites attract, which is really kind of fun.
I love that they're the movers and shakers, the young ones in their industry. But Kristen, you broke down this year's list by the numbers. What can you tell us about that?
I did. We had some fascinating stats that I'm excited to share with you. The first of which being that the average under 30 works 64 hours a week. Very much bigger than the normal work week that most of us have. Collectively, they've raised $5 billion plus in funding, which is huge. And 27 is the average age of our lister, but the youngest this year is 15 years old. Another interesting stat was that 49% of the people on our list self-identify as a person of color, which, as Steve alluded to earlier with the diversity, is huge. Last year we had 47%. So we continue to grow more and more in that. And nearly a quarter are immigrants, which is also exciting. And the final stat that I will share with you is that this is the year that we had the most Gen Zers ever. So 22% of our list is considered Gen Z.
So why do you think that Gen Z made such an impact this year?
I think it's because, and I cringe at saying this because I'm a millennial, but millennials are getting old. And
I'm a millennial too.
Okay,
we
good.
are. I see us on social media getting more relevant by the day.
Exactly. So I think we're seeing like this new cohort of people who this is, what they're doing. I think the oldest millennial right now is 40, which is really sad, and I'm depressed to say it, but Gen Z is really taking over the world and clearly showing us that on the under 30 list.
So from that, what is a common theme that you both saw on the list this year?
One thing that it's always so inspirational and also shocking is that how many companies and ideas were started during the pandemic, started during lockdown or started because or to either solve a problem or someone's like, hey, I'm at home and I have a couple ideas. Like the fact that someone like me who could barely tie their shoes during COVID, the innovation kept on coming and it kept on just.
What was a pandemic idea that was born? So
many of these under 30s started their companies during the pandemic, and they're not necessarily COVID or pandemic inspired companies. One, our education call out, Harrison Hockman from a company called Sparrow, and their goal is to be it's for student loans, and it's like the Expedia of student loans. And he came across this as went to Stanford, and he was at Stanford, and when they were closing the school for COVID, everyone was doing their flights and flying all over the world, flying all over the country to get back. And then he's like, well, that's so easy. Why is getting my student loans reams of paperwork and all this stuff? So he's like, why can't I make? And then he was home with all his downtime. He goes, what if I can kind of simplify the user experience and create this whole new easy system for student loans? And that was that inspiration. He did it when he was at home with his parents on school leave.
And another great story that I love is the one of Ben Parker, who is our energy call out. So he was a former Tesla guy, and he decided, I'm going to quit and try and start my own company. And he is making RVs that are electric, and his company is called Lightship. And during the pandemic, just to get a feel of kind of what living in an RV would be like, because he had never lived in one before, he decided to just take a pandemic road trip, him in an RV, and see, talk to other truckers on the road, talk to RV people on the road, see the pain points, and see what making an electric RV would be like. So I thought that was fascinating, and they're two really interesting guys.
So you both have worked on the list for a while. Steve, you said you worked on it every single year. So how have you seen it really evolve within your time at Forbes?
Yeah, one way people on the list have evolved in ways changed is that, well, it's one thing's constant and one thing is always changing. Is they're all on the forefront of the latest technologies, and they're using that technology and theme as a wave. Like early on, we had people like Mark Zuckerberg and Kevin Systrom from Instagram, and they kind of created these big networks, but then suddenly you had people building companies on top of Instagram, on top of Twitter, on top of Facebook. And that's evolved, but the companies and things have changed, whether it's on the cloud or whether it's on a TikTok or whether it's on YouTube and influencers. So the technology is always changing, but there's always a huge group of folks who are basically building these surfboards and surfing on the hottest new technology or surfing on the hottest new trend. Or last year it was all Bitcoin, or crypto. This year not so much, but you always find these folks who are on the cutting edge of the next thing, which we love under 30.
So looking back, who are some notable alum that are on the top of your head?
I think my favorite, and this is just me personally because I love these two people, in the music world, Adele and Ariana Grande and Taylor Swift. Obviously, huge, huge names for me. But Steve, I think you've interviewed a ton of our business under 30. So.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I love when every year we have a few folks, like we see the under 30 as like a sports analogy, like our farm team or like our AAA baseball team. So every year we have folks who were on the under 30 like a year ago or a couple of years ago, and they jump from that to either our billionaire list, or they jump to our power women list, or they jump to our top earning celebrity lists. And I love these folks that like, for example, like Kevin Systrom from Instagram, Daniel Ek from Spotify, Whitney Wolf Herd from Bumble, Donald Glover, the media sensation, Hollywood sensation. All these folks were not just on the under 30 list, but they came into Forbes when they were getting started. They got photographed, they got videoed, and then a couple of years later they exploded. And we love that because it makes us look smart. And
totally.
It's good to kind of they give not give people their first start, but again kind of help on that kind of trajectory. And that's really special for us.
I was talking to Randall Lane, who is the creator of the Under 30 franchise here, and he said something very similar. He said it's like a glimpse into the future. If you want to see what's going to be happening in 5 years, look at the list. So I think that really speaks to that. But when the list launched earlier this week, it was immediately trending on social media. So what do you think about this list really resonates with people?
I think it's aspirational. I think, when I was younger, because I, haven't done all the under 30 lists, I would look at it on my phone or look at it online and be like, that is so cool. I want to be that. Those people are everything that I aspire to be. They're entrepreneurial, they're innovative, they're smart, they're cool. So I think it's people want to aspire to that and work as hard to be that and kind of follow their success story.
Yeah, I think one of the privileges of being at Forbes is this is a brand that's over 100 years old, mm-hmm. and we get to stand on all those other journalists' shoulders. Mm-hmm. And one of the results of that is, in many ways, Forbes can be a validation machine for many industries, you name it. And this is a big validation for these folks, so that they want to share it, take a victory lap. And then it's also a FOMO machine, and then it also creates a lot of hate and jealousy, and you name it. So it's a virtuous cycle. People are posting, and then people are also posting trash talk. So I guess that's how you get it right. When there's like positive and negative, it all combines into the even field. Yep. I think. Yeah.
It was definitely one of the biggest talkers on all platforms. On social media, I saw everyone posting about the list. People who got on it, people who wished they were on it, everything in between. But in one word, how would you describe all of the under 30s? What's that one trait that they share?
That's tough.
Yeah, it is tough.
One word. I think the word I saw most in this year's application was optimistic and optimism. They have such a sunny outlook on life, which is hard in this climate, but all of them were just so pumped about the future and so optimistic. So that will be my word.
That's a great one.
Thank you.
You have to be an entrepreneur.
I like
especially
a glass.
Now, you have to be.
Yeah,
yes.
Glass half full.
I'd say pioneer, because these are folks. Many of them are, they're forging paths, and they are creating something out of nothing, or not out of nothing. They're creating new things. That might be a new idea, a new company, a new flavor, a new sound, and I love that. Yeah.
Kristen and Steve, thank you so much.
Thanks, Brittany. Thank you.
Brittany. Yes, awesome.